yourself comfortable. My name is Crispin and I am a poet as well as your MC for today's event. First of all, I would like to thank the National Gallery Singapore for hosting us in this very amazing venue. And today is actually the final day of the Light to Night Festival. So really thank you so much for coming down on a Sunday afternoon. It just rained. So we are so thankful that such a turnout is here. All right, before we start, I would like to invite Vanini from the NGS to give a short opening address. Vanini, please.
Welcome to the National Gallery. It's such a joy to see you here. It's been an incredible journey for us. David just arrived from Manila. It's been like unpredictable, but yeah, we have been in the last 10 days. The National Gallery has celebrated the power of art, offering a range of experiences and programs to the Singapore public across the Civic District. We've partnered with 4 other institutions: the Art House, Victoria Theatre and Victoria Concert Hall, the Asian Civilizations Museum, and the Esplanade. And today, as one of our concluding events for the festival, we've co-organized together with the Poetry Festival Singapore a program called 12 to 75. This is to celebrate yet another milestone. In this case, a tribute to David Medalla, international Filipino artist who's like one of the pioneers of kinetic art. He's in our collection, so if you have visited the National Gallery and you know the bubble machine, it's in the Southeast Asia Gallery. And a Stitching Time currently hangs at the Coleman entrance and at the auditorium anteroom. Similarly, this artwork, A Stitching Time, echoes the life and journey and adventures of the artist. It sees its 50th year anniversary in Singapore, and we're very proud to be the ones to present it. We're very, very proud that you're a part of it. This is a very special work that continues to touch people and breathes with collective memories. It's the first time that we see this work in such a scale, representing what the artist calls the metamorphosis of art, a marriage between A Stitching Time and his work with his long-term collaborator, Adam Nunkervis, which is the Mondrian fan club. Last year, my director and I, Suan Megan Tan, director for Audience Development and Engagement, saw another version of Stitching Time at the Venice Biennial. It's really 50 years since 1968 when David conceived it, when he said goodbye to two of his ex-lovers at Heathrow Airport, giving them like a piece of clothing, a piece of cloth, and needle and thread to stitch anything that they want in it. And it has since encountered so many stories, so many serendipitous moments, and now more than 600 Singaporeans have contributed their personal memories. The 3 cloth that you see there, the red, Mondrian red, blue, and yellow, comprised of more than 600 stories, and more than 12 CCs, more than 12 community centers have contributed to it. I think some of them are here. If you could identify yourself, they're there. Rodney, together with my colleague Ronald, they're up there. Thank you so much. This is really one of the highlights of David's work, which is recognizing the shared responsibility with the public. So the making of art is not the sole responsibility of the artist, but also the audience is also a big part of the making of it. So before we start, I would just like to do say thank you again to the Poetry Festival, all my colleagues at the National Gallery. This is really a team effort. It's not one person. It's like, I don't know, more than 100 of us are working on one project. We have a film crew as well, the LaSalle students. Also the National Commission for Culture and the Arts in the Philippines, who's looking after David. And another vacant space. Special thanks to Adam Nunkervis and all the community centers. And today, the 12-year-old boy is here, and his timeless work with you. And now open the floor to the Poetry Festival Singapore. Thank you so much for being with us, and do enjoy the 50 original poems dedicated to David Medalla's life and A Stitching Time. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanini. As you heard, we actually asked for an open call for poems about Stitching Time and other works and the life of David Medalla, and we are very proud today to showcase 50 of them. 50 of them, and we are really, really proud to showcase them to you. So we'll start off our poem reading session with our youngest poets, and in fact they're from CHIJ Katong Convent. All right, so can you give them a huge round of applause? So we'll start first with Guo Ziying. Unfortunately, Guo Ziying is not feeling well. She's unable to make it, but we have her teacher, Miss Linden, who will read on her behalf. She'll be reading a poem called A Stitch in Time. Miss Linden, please.
This poem is inspired by Mr. Medalla's life. 65 years ago, would this young boy from the Paris of Asia know what he would achieve? Coming from humble beginnings, yet equipped with an ingenious, powerful mind and drive. This youthful artist braved the storm and grew to create such majestic works. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Linden. Next up, we have Annabelle Diaros, who will be reading her poem, An Epochal Artistry. Annabelle, please.
This poem was inspired by David Medalla's tapestry, which is a stitch in time that we are doing today. And I was actually bamboozled into doing this. Kidding aside, it was a journey for me. This was my very first formal poem composition. So here it is. An epochal artistry. Each artwork a marvel that leaves them agape. In stupefaction at the tapestry, a David Medalla creation. The assembled conglomeration of unusual artifacts, conjuring images that are variant. They present a dilemma as to the best way to appreciate, to interpret, to elucidate. But what's clear is a man's artistry, transcending cultural boundaries in an epoch suspended in creativity.
Good afternoon, my name is Xiao Pei. I will read the poem written in Cantonese. 題目養分。親吻過妻子進入深淵，就是通往天堂的甬道。男人像一根吸管，算給着女人化身盛鹽的養分，不多不少，剛好足夠編織一場雨。降下的每一滴，彷彿是開生的眼睛，長在潮濕的世界，滋潤安藏水。
Title of the poem, Nutrients, translated by Chow Teck Sing. The act of kissing your wife was a path to hell, leading to heaven. A straw indeed, the man sucking up liquid with dissolved salt nutrients made from the woman, no less and no more, just enough to stage a heavy pour. All tears that fell are viviparous infant, eyes of the mother growing in a wet, wet world, nourishing a desert filled faith.
I still have one poem. 安身在遙方的角落，你拉扯被切片的海洋，讓寄養的水櫃流出紅隙，張牙舞爪。他們的眼睛是黑夜裏的白晝，在繁華街道大口大口吃掉人捏造的語言。他們的虔誠比上帝的羊羔鋭利，深深戳穿一簇簇眼前的花火苗，直至你飄身的雲盼歸家安身。
Title of poem, Shelter, translated by Lo Kian Se. In the trembling corner, you tug at sliced fragments of the ocean, for ghosts to flow from the gaps in a whirl of fangs and claws, with eyes orbs of day in the night as they devour those who walk the crowded streets into fable. Their devotion, more piercing than the Lamb of God, exposes flocks after flocks of tenacious flames till your scattered soul finds a way home to respite. Xiao Pei.
Okay, thank you. 谢谢。
Thank you very much, Xiao Pei. Our next reader is someone who's very familiar to the local literary scene. I'm sure all of you know him. He's none other than Professor Edwin Tambu.
Good afternoon. I hope you'll bear with me, talk about the poem a little bit. Stitch in time, straight away you think of sewing. My generation, when we were in primary school, we did have to do sewing. You won't believe it. But me, given my inability to concentrate, messed up my sewing. But one day I managed to sneak that piece of cross stitch home, and my mother straightened it out. I had to tell her, don't make it too good, because the teacher won't believe it. But I had to learn a whole set of stitches, and you'll be surprised. You Google, and you'll be shown websites, narratives, and so on about how to use stitching. And stitching becomes a language, it becomes a discourse. You can do so many things with stitching. So I thought that a stitch in time is supposed to save 9. And when I think of 9, I think of cats with their 9 lives and so on. That's how our minds work, you associate. So I thought I will use stitching as a little metaphor. And when you think of time, you think of little things as well as vast things. You think of infinity. You think of time in the universe. And some of us have read Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time. I still remember I was somewhere overseas when he was interviewed about his book, and my hair stood up when he said, there's increasing evidence that beyond the universe is nothingness. And that straight away I thought of the Indian concept of time, space, creation, and so on. So when I saw the title, when I was told about this evening, A Stitch in Time, I said, look, I'm going to think of the universe, and I'm going to think about the small little thing when you plant 2 ends. And years ago, in a little article in Encounter, Günter Grass, the German novelist, made a very interesting point. He said that we are small, we are very finite, yet given the brain we have and the imagination we have that goes with it, we can conceive of the whole universe in our heads, although we are nothing in the universe. And that, of course, leads you to other bits of your reading. If you look at some of the Indian accounts of the Ramayana, there's one version that has a scene in which Hanuman was asked to open his mouth. And when he opened his mouth, you saw the whole of the universe in it. Now there are these lovely ideas that are entirely out of the box. You don't have to go very far. You rummage within the cultures of ASEAN, you find enough to keep you occupied. So here is A Stitch in Time. And incidentally, I quote from the first version of Edward Fitzgerald's translation of the Rubaiyat, Omar Khayyam's Rubaiyat. And the lines go as, the moving finger writes and having writ moves on. I think it's from quatrain 50 or 51, I can't remember. I think it's 51, yes. So a stitch, question mark, in time, question mark. She who ciphers the swirling cosmos and he who hems green shoots in mud are equal stitches. Look up, look down. One vast, one small, one dry, one wet. Fire, water, sizzle, douse. Obvious contrast, mutually cancelling. Yet, with immemorial surety, in regular conjunction, the sun's core and seasonal soaking ripen seeds to life. Nothing contradicts when seen by us aright and properly. That includes ways of telling. Say, start with cross-stitch. As life doubles back and forth or slides upon beams, the moon's beams, down improbabilities, it's herringbone you use. When we peel tearful onions, hiccup, blend coffee beans for that special brew, answer tricky emails, we use twins and triplets as we stitch. When we push a point, finalize aptness, opt for French and bullion knots, they are strong. Endless repertoire we have of word farms where they grow, color parades where they bloom, sound bites we can always use. We circle craft with art, splice song into wind, wind into words, words into color, and color into wind, rising through first, second, third versions. For a poet, the moving finger writes and having writ moves on, embroidering our lives, stitch by stitch. Thank you. Actually, I wanted to be a bit naughty by concluding, embroidering our lives itch by itch, stitch by stitch. But I thought I better leave out the itch bit.
Thank you, Prof. Tambu. Channing, please.
This poetry piece is titled Clouds. Legal summer breaths blow its fleeting acts. A constant motion gyrates a biting play. Transient grey ribbons suspend gradient round prisms. Dust dandelion dances, blind for an umbrella audience. Across the sun-dying embers, Zeus' forgiveness lands. Up it goes again, gasoline rainbows come unplanned. Between pearly graveyards, the area comes clean. Seasoned ashes fall, swept away in buckwheat winds. Upon a bed of tongues and menthol, wakened by good night's sleep. Thank you.
Thank you, Channing. Next up, we have Tamil poems by Kasinathan Sudha. Kasinathan Sudha, please.
Hi, good evening everyone. My name is Sudha. I am going to read Tamil poem. மணிலாவில் உதித்த கதிரொளி, நியூயார்க்கில் வசிக்கும் நிலவொளி, சர்வதேச எழுச்சி பேரொளி, சரித்திரத்தில் விடிவெள்ளி, சகலகலா கலையுலக அதிபதி, சிற்பங்களின் மறுஉருவத்தின் முதல் வழி, இலக்கிய உலகின் சூறாவளி, இணையில்லா இலக்கியவாதி, கலை உலகின் தனக்கென்று தனியிடத்தை பிடித்த சிறந்த மாமணி. You are a sunsprang in Manila. You are a identity of New York. You receive international surprise critics. You are a multi-talented human being. You showed the first way to rebuild the sculpture. You are the hurricane in the literacy world. You owe contains uncompromising literature. You are the best father in the art world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sudha. Next up, we have Ria M. Phillip. Ria M. Phillip who will be reading on David Medalla's Cloud Canyon.
It's growing, slowly and silently, seemingly still to passing glances, and thriving to the eyes who don't leave too soon. The city it's building, it's always growing, always evolving, never really sparing a minute to think where to build. No, it doesn't think at all, does it? But if the sculpture had a conscience, I'd better tell you to build, not think, to create, not imagine, to bring something new on board every time someone laid their eyes on you, to grow, not hope, to do, not wish, to set down some sort of weird, outlandish, never before seen path for you to take, because it's growing, slowly and silently, and so are you.
Thank you, Ria. Our next reader is Kamar Firdaus Saini. Unfortunately, he's unable to make it today. So today we have Michelle who will be reading Stargazing on his behalf. Michelle, please.
Stargazing. By a body of water, I mark the precise position of each star we see on your palm, drawing connecting lines, our digits intersecting. The light has traveled years from our past, you squint to see. If it's dimming, I could not find the space to ask if I could chart these universes I see still kindling in your eyes. Here's another poem. Stay. At 12, you spun into my language class all pinafored and ponytailed, promised to sit behind so we could see the whiteboard. I perched myself beside you that year, asked if you could teach me to speak in a tongue I did not grow up with. On Fridays, at the blue stone table, bookended by mailboxes, your hand over mine. I learned to write cursive, my longing lengthening on paper. That year, I wrote a letter for each day we are apart and could not speak. Your bob unrecognizable in uni. I asked if you could teach me how to rhyme this time. Your laughter familiar above Central Library. We hid behind lockers. My tongue, rewriting those letters in cursive on yours. Years after, you asked me if I could write for another. If it's weird when I got your invite in the mail years, and I still text you poems where hands meet, fingers find each other, asking if this is the one that will stay. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Next up, we have Ng Yu Tzu, who will be reading a poem based on David's The Bubble Machine. Yu Tzu, please.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Yu Tzu, and I'll be reading my poem, The Bubble Machine. Sometimes the days fold over themselves. I wrap myself in the soft light of a museum, fold my entrance ticket into half and slip it into my pocket. Shadows fold into new shapes overhead, shifting overhead. I push open the gallery door to a frothing machine, circling it as I imagine myself blowing bubbles in a bath, the water stirring. In this phase, remain temporary, translucent, transcendent, as bubbles emerge and die away again under dim lights. Taking off my shoes, I tiptoe at the edge of the exhibit, balancing between acts of teenage and adulthood, not knowing when or how to cross. All of a sudden, there's a movement and my weight shifts. For a moment, I'm almost afraid I'm going to tip over into the floor, but I do not. Instead, I hesitate at the peripheral, daring myself to cross. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yu Tzu. Now, our next reader actually has a new collection of poetry that's coming out. So his new collection is called Dumpra, and it's poems from 2001 to 2016. So he has a book launch coming up on 3rd February, 7:30 at the Malay Heritage Centre. Now, I'm hyping him up because he's coming up next. May I now invite on stage Nur Akmal with Ukiran Abadi.
Hi, my name is Akmal, and this is actually a response or reaction for Mr. Medalla's Eskimo cover. Mari, 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 mari kita berkongsi pisau buat memotong mimpi angau. Kerana dunia manusia sasau dari hanya dengan besi kilat-kilau ini dapat kita putuskan tali kegilaan. Pada dinding ini kita bautkan besi-besi tajam dari kata-kata bunga cinta. Kalau dibautkan keris, adakah darah budaya akan terus diwarisi? Kalau ditampal kapak, adakah kayu rumah-rumah kampung tidak dimusnahkan? Kalau diikat sabit, adakah untung tanah pertiwi dikongsi sama? Dan disinilah telah bermukim satu idea, menyanyikan lagu yang sama. Bukan berperang mencari kemenangan, hanya menuntut keadilan zaman. Thank you. For those who probably won't understand Malay, so this is the translation, right? It's called internal carvings. Let us share a knife to cut away deranged dreams, for mankind's world is daft, and only with this shiny blade can we cut these delirious strings. On the walls we attach sharp metals and flowery words of love. If we secure a crest, will cultural blood continue to be inherited? If we put up an axe, will the wood from kampong houses not be destroyed? If we fasten a scythe, will the profit of the land be rightfully shared? And here lies sleeping an idea, singing the same song, not to find glory in battles, but to seek justice in finding peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Akmal. And if you like his poetry, his book launch is on 3rd February, 7:30 p.m. at the Malay Heritage Centre, Dompra. Now we move from Malay to Mandarin. Our next speaker is Mr. Chow Teck Seng. We'll be reading A Promise, Hosting One Another. Teck Seng, please.
Hi everybody. This is a poem in response to the installation in circulation, A Stitch in Time. So I take the concept that this project or this artwork has to be complete by another unknown person, which in circulation form up the concept of time. I'll read the English translated version first. The English title is named A Promise, Posting One Another. We both agree to post ourselves as two poems, including some drawings and our names, to each other on postcards. One problem, at the time when I was sent to you, you to have mailed yourself out, then where would you send the card to reach me? So I was eventually dumped into a vacant emptiness of being. The results, we have merely exchanged positions without even meeting. The Mandarin Chinese version, titled 信约. 信约 is actually the pledge that we recite every morning, but it's 信/约, so it's letter / a meetup or a day. 信约.我们彼此约定，把自己写成明信片中的诗、图案和名字，寄给对方。问题是，当我把自己寄出， 诗，也被你寄出的你，又把信寄去哪里找我呢？我于是被投掷到一场落空里，而结果是，我们只是交换了立场和位置，始终没有相遇。Okay, I'll carry on reading another MC.
So thank you very much, Tixing. Next up, we actually have a poem by Sun Chiwei, but unfortunately Chiwei is not here today with us. So we have Mr. Chao Tixing who will be reading on his behalf a conversation in Hadrian's Villa.
在哈德良别墅，与台伯和神的对话。是的，我还没走，一时静静的，就在你身旁。一阵风吹来，带来了自你诞生起就不曾改变的花香与童年。河水还在如丝流逝。城市又与老去千年，只是这份纷乱的世间，一时还不停地迷失和寻找，不停在迷失中寻找。战争已被厌倦，邪恶却一直在进化和繁衍。从赤裸裸的原始，到假装斯文、乔装改扮，知识、智慧和勇气，连同备受折磨的良知，还是在人类视野的边缘或隐或现。我们远不如你坚强，你的残臂还在新旧交织的光影里，一直守候着罗马城的童年。而我面对一众石像，却只能回味那些一再被毁灭的传说。Little soul, Romeo and Chamo, bodies, guests, and companion. Into what places will you now depart? Pale, stiff, and mute, an end to all your dreams. 我一直在尝试用脑海中的那些不会停歇的艺术，去修复人们已经劫吃的光荣旧理。可你比我更了解，这是一趟需要穿透寂寞的旅行，一趟自我湮灭的旅程。只是为了这不曾消亡的艺术，为了人们这一再执着的生活，我愿意就这样一直继续下去。好了，朋友们又来召唤我，是该向你道别了。我与你的对视，在瞬息之间。在不觉之中，已尽成过往，已尽若永恒。Thanks.
Thank you, Dixing. Next up, we have Rutika Raman. Rutika Raman, who will be reading Dear Friend.
So just a disclaimer, I'm not an English poet, so the English translation sounded a lot better in my head. But this is entitled Dear Friend, or Anbulla Tora. Anbulla Tora. Thalai siranda thoramai thandadu tholendu ponayada. Anbulla Namba. Nandri marava nappai neringi naruva vittayada. Anbulla Kadala. காலம் காணாத காதலை கொடுத்து களைத்து போனேனடா அன்புள்ள நிக்கோலாய் நீ எங்கே போனாய்? Now we're reading the English translation. Dear friend, you gave me your utmost friendship, but you have since disappeared. Dear companion, we became invariably close, but then you let it slip away. Dear partner, time has never seen a love like ours. But now I'm tired. Dear Nikolai, where did you go? Thank you.
Thank you, Mrutika. And next up, we have Caroline Ng. Caroline Ng, please.
Hello everyone, this poem is inspired by David Medalla's Two Lovers. It's hard to let you go, and yet it has to be the case. How to let you know they love you if you have to part ways? If God be willing, we'll meet again. And this time, it's forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Next up, we have Hernie Mamat, who will be reading Ties That Bind Us. Hernie, please.
Hi everyone. So the poem I'm reading is called The Ties That Bind Us. I'd like to dedicate this to my father, actually my late father who passed late last year, and partially because I wish that we had more stitches in time. We have little, this I know, but don't say we have nothing, as if we had naught to show. These years of silence, these decades of indifference, they were not always so. Can you not recall those moments, as fleeting as they may be, when we believed that we would be much more than a painful memory? Now, I look at my papery skin and wonder how it all went so wrong. Watched as you carved a gulf between us a dozen lifetimes long. What of that, I hear you think, your eyes looking at a stranger already on the brink. We say, let not our thoughts run to the past. But how could we have known that would be our last? Thank you.
Thank you, Hernie. Next up, we have Valerie Liao, who will be reading A Huge Mess. Valerie, please.
My poem is on A Stitch in Time, and it's about our perception. It's called A Huge Mess. Indeed, everything is tangled up, such mess I see. I can see that everything is connected by thread, by strings. Fibers, everything we do is intertwined into our thread. Fibers locking with one another, determining how strong, how weak, how colorful, how bleak we spin our lives out to be. I was given a short piece of fabric. You were given a piece of fabric, of time, and we were told to stitch. This cloth is not too long, so that we don't get bored. I hope it's not too short, for I'm sure to make falls and stumble at the beginning. You know, we only have one piece of cloth, even though many of us wish we had more. I see now. What a beautiful smile. How could I have not noticed that tangles and strings are just what we make our lives out to be, and that nothing's really anything unless we think it's something.
Ladies and gentlemen, Valerie Liao. Next, we have Melvin Christopher Siko, who will be delivering his poem Static Lines. Melvin, please.
Hello, good afternoon. Static Lines. She tells me of her dreams upon waking, while I recall none of my own. From the Nephilim, the smoky tendrils of slumber, gossamer veins come forth. Even gods are led astray by the heart's embrace. Clotheslines caught in the torrents the first time I had seen rain, she let slip. Thank you.
Thank you, Melvin. Next up, we have Ian Lim, who will be reading his poem To Zulu and the Forgotten Numbers with Love. Ian Lim, please.
To Zulu and the Forgotten Numbers with Love, after a stitch in time. Last night, wrecked in an attempt at eating air, stumbling like a chain piece struck totem pole. What fabric just chainsaw to end in flux, in bricolage, within the democracy or meaning, withered and treated by a white willow branch, the proof, as they say, is pudding. Multiplicity, to touch an edelweiss flower into a swan, to travel between city lights, a crush mollusk blooms like flora, after a stitch in time, a season turned over after an autumn reason got sacked and moved forward quickly and collected dead sand, how umami after a self-help palette, a 4-day Mincoon, a laggard hotel, just dreams, just enemies, just a rollover now, a crystal faucet that flows across the pages, a tar umbrella, resign, now I break the stitch thrice canvas, but in space there shouldn't be time, there shouldn't be place. What box set with more sand? Could it be gravel? To match lucky, to match life, to match only the sublime. How absurd, my carded table, blind men and assemblage. A descriptive story, sense narrative, sense organ. Still an alleyway trip after the hourglass room. Dry mouth, wet bruxism, touch teeth. I'm still at the communist river, only virtual, no exit. Where two lovers meet, parted by a loosened marble bridge, where the other side switches in a deconstructed perspective, a forgotten funeral song, singing pamphlets located in a GIF, a thumb drive, all props, all materials, participatory, wanting to see bookshelves suspended, how juvenile rapidly, a triple synthesis, a conceptual conduit, a confounded rose is a rose is a rose, through a red keyhole that should have read à la Rocher to Tempadu, and the intermittent Madeline sliced at countless diasporas and counting the 3 jagged edges lost from Covent Garden to St. Andrew's Road, between a lost film row and the travelled couplet cinema to a final lonely interchange that saves 9. A stitch in time to say.
Thank you, Ian. Our next reader is Ryan. Unfortunately, he is not here today because he's got to serve national service. So instead, Ian will be reading on his behalf his poem, The Installation. Ian, please.
Thank you, Crispin. The Art Installation by Ryan Beale. The instructions are to stitch anything I like. I looked at the items already sewn and began to assign names to strangers. A photo, old Joe and wife, on a cruise, possibly a honeymoon, probably happy. A short poem, handwritten by Gina's grieving fingers. A picture of little Lisa's favorite rocking horse. A profanity, scribbled by Vincent living in the alleys. I began to check my pockets. I didn't prepare a family photo, and this Polaroid with Vichy is my only copy. I cannot stitch my house keys or sweet potatoes keychain gift. Her body warmth and lips are also unstitchable. So I take a piece from the stack of papers and write a thoughtful line. I got my first real 6-string, bought it at the first 5 and dime. I make a stitch in time. A lyric will be your important thing.
Thank you very much, Ian. Next up, we are having Ashley Wong, who will be reading Handkerchief. Ashley, please.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Ashley Wong, and before I start, I would like to thank my family and my school for their support. Today, I'll be presenting my poem called Handkerchief. I witnessed a party, and in it, I'm instrumental, for I am a documentary that is to be watched, a duty to be fulfilled. My first caressed my cheeks as rain fell from the clouds of his eyes, picked up the needle of his ex-lover. The thread of his memories tattooed my skin, weaving in and out of me. kissed me goodbye as he left me with a stranger. Oh, excited to leave his mark on my skin like the people who will do the same time to come. Intrigued by the creation amassed by strangers connected through lacing their own intimate journeys. Their love, their heartbreak, their careers, their thoughts, their inspirations, their ambitions. Why? I drift from continent to continent in search for the weaver, navigating the choppy waters and treacherous lands, gasless bicycles and greasy cars, and attached to a bag of a wanderer, I found him, gazing at me with eyes that found fire, my maker. He held me up to his palm like how he did when I parked to be my first, examining my skin. Interesting, he must have thought, but he didn't speak, mute. My duty is done, to serve as a memory of you, love. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Our next reader is Mahesh Kumar Ramamurthy, and he will be reading an ode to the stitch. Mahesh, please.
Good evening all. This is inspired by this Stitch in Time installation. And what if the fabric is not just 10 meters long, but the whole world stitching with our senses? An ode to the stitch. A group of women in Helsinki laid a collage of mats with geometric designs on a bridge. A couple of prison maids in Moscow make colored paper mache balls that resemble the onion domes of St. Basil. An artist in Zurich, inspired by Picasso, is painting a canvas in his dreams. My favorite singer in Chennai is clearing his throat before he renders his next melody. A blind craftswoman in a small coast village in Vietnam is embroidering an intricate landscape at this very moment. And while Medalla is conceiving his ensuing installation, someone in Singapore writes a poem trying to stitch all this into one string of moments, those spun off from the same time slice. Stitch in Time honors me, you, everyone, and the modern art. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mahesh. Our next reader will be reading the poem Paper Thin. The name is Lynette 1. Lynette, please.
Good evening, everyone. The title of my poem is Paper Thin. Row, row, row your boat over the blue cellophane sea that tosses your hopes, stripping the audacious translucence, unveiling the naked, the transience of life, and the futility of your voyage on a lone vessel is an even lonelier part. Yet you row, row, row on as you mourn your oceanic loss of loves, opportunities, and adolescence, once alpha, the metaphor of your youth. Again, the relentless waves hit, crashing, tearing away the rust of nostalgia and drying your tears with their salty wash. The water now stills, and numb fatigue warms you. But somehow, as you row, 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 you no longer feel the leathery glide, but a crunchy trudge. You look down. Beyond your ride are abrasive yellow ochre grains glued to paper-thin parchment. You finally understand why you have not set your pedals down. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynette. Now, Paper Thin was selected as one of two poems that actually is going to be set to music. And with that, I would like to invite tenor Maki Kanyos on stage, who will be reading a musical rendition of Lynette Wan's Paper Thin. Maki, please.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Marky Cañas. I have a full-time job, so this is one of my part-time. So I like to sing, especially classical singing, and on the side, I stage my own recitals. So I have another recital coming up for free plugging. Yeah, so it will be a classical Filipino love songs. So when I was invited to perform in this event, I was very excited to be part of this festival because I love poetry and I grew up listening and loving Shakespeare, especially in high school. And I've always loved Sonnet 116. So those Shakespearean aficionados there would know that. So Paper Thin by Lynette Wan. So how was the process? I invited my friend Griselda to compose. We did a bit of composing. But hopefully you would like this because it's more like a stream of consciousness thing of where the melody goes according to the text. So this is Paper Thin by Lynette Wan. Row, row, row your boat over the blue cellophane sea that tosses your hopes, stripping their audacious translucence, unveiling the naked, the transience of life, and the futility of your voyage on a lone vessel with an even lonelier heart. Yet you row, row, row on as you mourn your oceanic loss of love's opportunities and adolescence once alpha, the metaphor of your youth. Again the relentless waves hit, crashing, tearing away the rust of nostalgia and drying your tears with their salty wash. The water now stills and numb fatigue warms you, but somehow as you row, 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 you no longer feel the leathery glide, what a crunchy trudge. You look down beyond your ride, are abrasive yellow ochre grains glued to paper thin parchment. You finally understand why you have not set your paddles down.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Marky Cañas. Next, we have a very familiar face in the poetry scene. May I invite now on stage Desmond Korn, who will be reading his poem, Eternal Motion.
Thanks, Crispin. Yeah, so I'm not going to sing because then no one's going to be left if I sing, right? This poem is titled Eternal Motion, and it's an ekphrastic text based on Mr. Medalla's Cloud Gates. There is no redundancy here. There is no superfluity, even in life's assessment. No one's looking, no one, oh ephemerae of dissolutions. No one is there. In the room where it all happened, so long ago, the memory has become a fiction. The room seems like a fiction, but it is real. You know it is real. Its squarish angularity, I know it is real. The way you hold my hand. The repetitions are eternal inversions of an extended metaphor extending itself, a series of infolding turns, so much as to disappear. No lodged positions, no milky consistency, the resulting invisibility also a contingent condition. It is there. It exists like this colored sky. No one's looking, but there's our seat, ensconced. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Desmond. And next up, we have Eugenia Tan, who will be reading The Artist in a Foreign Pub. Eugenia, please.
Hi everyone, and yeah, thanks Crispin for hosting. I'd also like to thank the previous readers who have been reading their work. So my poem is also based off the same work that Desmond mentioned, which is the Cloud Gate bubble machine work. So, The Artist in a Foreign Pub. He calculates his exhales, timing them. Each gulp of dark stout lines beer froth on his upper lip. The malt brew slides down his throat. He relishes a nubile penis in his mouth, warm, throbbing, the taste of foam fond to him, naive like a young man's nipples. Another swig of his tipple. He conjures erect pipes, containing the brink of besotted effervescence, from mindless violence, freshly shaved lovers, rabid dogs and grovellers, his father and the gorilla shaking a war-torn soldier, churning at the mouth, with blood and mucus, choking back hubris, dead, sprawled under a tree of hibiscus. Thank you.
Thank you, Eugenia. Next, we have Ridu Dylan, who will be reading A Stitch in Time. Ridu, please.
My poem is based on the installation A Stitch in Time. Stories are bound together by multicolored threads. Scraps of many people's lives stitched together with thread. They hang, suspended in time, a patchwork of memories.
Thank you, Ridu. Next up, we have Shelley Bryant, who will be reading her poem, Stitched. Shelley, please.
My poem is a response to just reading about the life and the work of the artist and the sheer humanity that was represented there, and the various inspirations that he took from his experiences and the various inspirations that he gave to others as well. Stitched. Famous friendships sewn securely enough to hold fast over time and motion. Inspiration discovered time and again in the stillness of a statue, an image knit of stone. Each performance writ large, a contradiction of multitudes, weaving the strings stitched together, twitching the threads that bind. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. Now, one thing I love about poetry readings is you never know what can happen along the way. So now we actually have something new. We have Jason Santiago, who will be doing a song, I believe, a rendition of a song at the request of David Medalla. So Jason, please.
Hello, good afternoon. Actually, I did not plan this, but this is a request of Sir David Medalla because I dedicate my time and my talent and my love for him because we have the same appreciation to art. Okay, this song is a Filipino love song called Maalaala Mo Kaya, in English, I Hope You Still Can Remember. It is a song that is composed by Constancio de Guzman, and I'll read it as this. Don't say that you feel you're not worthy, or that you are meek, or you're poor. In fact, my only love has figured. You are what I'm looking for. What use do I have of treasures? My heart cannot even decide. I wish for a true love that's lasting, a love that will never die. I hope you can still recall the promise that you have made me, that there is no reason why your feelings could ever fade. If you still want to ensure, then simply open my heart. The thing you'll find hidden there is only your photograph. I hope that you'll never change in the love that you give. I'll never do that, my dear, for as long as I live. How sweet is to enjoy your tenderness every day. I feel a joy in my heart, a joy that won't ever fade away. The song goes like this. Huwag mo sabihin ika'y hamak, kahit na isang mahirap, pagkat ang tangi kong pag-ibig, ganyan ang hinahanap. Aanhin ko ang kayamanan, kung puso ay salawahan. Nais ko'y pag-ibig na tunay at walang kamatayan. All of the Filipinos here, please sing with me. Maalaala mo kaya ang sumpa mo sa akin, na ang pag-ibig mo ay sadyang di magmamaliw. Kung nais mong matanto, buksan ang aking puso, ang tanging larawan mo, ang dooy nakatago. Di ka kaya magbago sa iyong pagmamahal. Hindi giliw mo hanggang sa libingan. O kay sarap mabuhay, lalo na't may lambingan. Ligaya sa puso ko ay di mapaparang.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jason, Santiago. Thank you very much, Jason. Next up, we have Priyanka Srivastava, who will be reading her poem, Drops. Priyanka, please.
This poem is inspired by the Bubble Machine by David Medalla. Drops tiny, clinking together. I hear a faint murmur, a gurgle. All together, still each apart, drifting somewhere. A gentle push from within, like ventricle holding eternity. A mirage, still so beautiful, ephemeral, still spoke to me. Transfixed I stood, soaking up the energy, pondering on the colors of creation, the fragility of life on a blank canvas. Drops tiny, clinging together, journeying through a world, refracting a few hopes, few dreams, bursting in colors on a blank page, a poem. Thank you.
Thank you, Priyanka. Our next reader is Abhirami Suresh. Unfortunately, he's unable to make it, so Priyanka will be reading on his behalf. Priyanka, please.
This poem is inspired by A Stitch in Time by Abhirami Suresh, titled Love for Humanity. Whatever big or small starts at a tiny point, grows, aggravates, recedes, then ends in a point. Life is a great puzzle. Tiny rolls of energy balls, starts, happens, and ends. Love too may be insane. Love too may be in same boat. If we leave it, vulnerable to be contaminated with expectations and control. A stitch in time may save unconditional love, its eternal enjoyment of bliss, just as hum of universe includes all, pervades all, with no positive or negative, no loss or gain, it's just itself. Love is love, life is full of love. Thank you.
Thank you, Priyanka. Our next reader is Mabel Young, and she will be reading A Stitch in Time. Mabel, please.
Stitch by stitch, adding another memory to the growing stretch of my mind, my memory bank, until it needs a spool to be kept safe, like a quilt handed down generation after generation. Another memory of the places I visited and the people I met, of the stranger friends in the dark bars I call home, and the related aliens in my house on the empty street. Another memory of the childhood playtimes in the nearby park, where I pushed you down the slide, and we hunted down the prized spiders, and you gave me a leaf during the autumn that year. Another memory of you and your little gifts, of the handkerchief you gave me before you disappeared into the mountains, of our first date together when you brought me to the movies and you wrapped your arm around me, of our broken dreams and hearts when it was all over. Soon I will have a blanket to wrap myself in when the days go dark and my memory fades. I will always have you by my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Mabel. Next up, we have Twin Ru Chu, who will be reading a poem, Cut to Fit.
It's called A Cut to Fit. We said goodbye, you and I turned to see you walk away. You didn't look back, and I understood why. There was no forgiving, no sense in reliving, nothing more to be said. The fabric of our lives wasn't cut to fit each other. And yet, here we are again, you and I, or should I say, you and I and us. For what else can we call this tie which binds us? And so we come full circle, to complete what we began, to change and be changed, until someday we find the cut which fits. Thank you.
Thank you, Twin Ru Chu. Next up, it is Eunice Lee Tan. Unfortunately, she can't be here, so I will be reading on her behalf. So Eunice titled this poem 1942 Vicissitudes on Medalla's Kinetic Art. Moving across continents, the waves of inspiration fueled Medalla's heart to form unique artistic creations. A curious poet from the Philippines traveled to New York, London, and Berlin from poetic words, surface paintings, unfathomable sculptures, and kinetic art. What you see in Medalla's art will yield different results upon repetition, continually changing its current form, unpredictably playful, creative, shape. A stitch in time, needles and cloths come join in fabric art, cloud canyons, bubble machines, foam, sense, imagine and interpret. Sand machine, beads and shells spin, watch spiral patterns emerge in sand. The exploding galaxy, figurative network, form a continuity of future multimedia artists. Will transient art last forever? What if Medalla's art reflects his incredible life, capturing the impermanent vicissitudes, beautiful magnifications of the kinetic soul? So next up, we have Nur Aisha Buang, who will be reading her poem, The Bubble Machine in Malay. Aisha, please.
I'm reading a Malay poem entitled Dari Mesin Berbuih. Awan kemawar putih itu adalah gumpalan berbuih tercipta dari mesin waktu. Mengutip kata, memungut rasa, lalu jadilah kumpulan memori. Adalah kumpulan berbuih dari kapas tenunan, menyulam segala warna, memotifkan sekian corak di atas selembar jahitan masa. Tercipta dari mesin waktu adalah gumpalan berbuih. Awan gemawan putih itu mengutip kata, memungut rasa, dan akhirnya meriwayatkan puisi tersentuh lewat nurani mata batin dari mesin berbuih seni. And this is my translation, titled from Bubble Machine. Those white clouds are lumps of bubbles created from time machine, picking up letters, collecting emotions, then churning into puff of memories. Are lumps of bubbles woven from cotton fabric, crisscrossing all colors, creating entire patterns on this piece of time, created from time machine. Those white clouds, picking up letters, collecting emotions, and finally tell a tale of poetry, touched to conscious soulfully from Arctic Bubble Machine. Thank you.
Thank you, Nur Aisha Buang. Next up, we have Sarah C, who will be presenting her poem next. Sarah, please.
Hi, this is David Medalla, a stitch in time. They don't pick me. I'm not their strict line trajectory model of destiny. But when I cannot thread needle, I'll dip into my trove, tangled spectres of a myriad past, hewn from necks, hemmed into time, agile, tenacious, that buoy the pressures of any now. For I am not its master, but the artist of this life. I choose to kilt my path from the patchwork I strewn behind. Fastened to half-beaten dreams, I guard my candle into the night void, and sing like an eagle above, beyond a patterned life. My call, what's next in the sheets of time?
Thank you, Sarah C. And we move from one Sarah to another Sarah. May I now invite on stage Sarah Tan.
Hi. Hello? Hi, this is my poem. White, you are ephemeral. Grey, you vibrate in the background. Bubbles, you are obscured by the sound. Beauty, you are unveiled by the mind. Introspection,
You are born of a society. Light. You are light, and you are nothing and everything, touched and untouched. Light, but not just light.
Thank you, Sarah. Our next reader is Pallavi Bhargava, and she will be reading Cadence of Chaos. Pallavi, please.
Good evening, everyone. My poem is inspired by the artwork by Mr. Medalla, Stitch in Time and the Bubble Machine. It was an artwork which was a medley of vision, chaotic yet comforting. And it's my small attempt to unveil and understand his great artwork. I hope he will forgive my audacity to do so. Cadence of Chaos. The pandemonium seen from afar has a rhythm throbbing its core, forming contours with every touch, blowing away with each puff, rediscovering itself with every thread, absorbing each piece of shred. The psychedelic mess on the palette poked the musings in my brain. The brush eager to absorb the chaos and settle it in a frame. But for evolution, I push beyond the agitation of my scalpel. Together, today, we see beyond the horizon. Exploding anarchy of the spectrum of light, tinkering the metamorphic transition through our skins, rebalancing the forms, binding us within, integrating into the imbroglio and climax at the cadence of chaos. Thank you.
Thank you, Pallavi. Next up, we have Leong Yok Ling, who will be reading a Mandarin poem, A Stitch in Time. Yok Ling, please.
I'm Yok Ling. Good evening, everyone. I actually wrote two poems. I was inspired enough to write two poems, the first in English and the second in Chinese. So, unfortunately, I think the English poem was not printed out, although I was told that both were selected. So I shall read the English poem first, and both English and Chinese poems are entitled A Stitch in Time, and of course they are inspired by the man himself, Mr. David Medalla. Okay, A Stitch in Time is started from an each and urged to record, to stitch my experiences on a canvas, a colorful palette. It is a chance meeting with a stranger, stringing my life on his canvas bag. Is it serendipity or fate? To see your stitching on a patchwork quilt of a canvas bag, a stitch in time, etched in your memory and mine. A stitch in time saves 9, connects lives. I shall now read my Chinese poem, which is also entitled A Stitch in Time, 异线时间，黑白相交，文字印记，成长岁月，绚丽多彩，颜色丰富。情感交流，立体创作，图腾雕刻，人生意念，锦绣花缎，游子背包，一针一线，情意密缝，读物思人，往事重现。Now I shall read the English translation of my poem, A Stitch in Time. Black or white, words document my youth, with reference to David's poetry writing in his youth. Dazzling and wonderful, colors brighten my feelings, relationships, with reference to David's artworks, paintings. Life-size creations, installations depict my life, with reference to David's installation art. An embroidered patchwork quilt on a traveler's backpack tells stitch by stitch of my ex-lover's friendship, lovingly hand-sewn. Seeing the embroidered silk, I remember her and our relationship in the past. With reference to David's A Stitch in Time project, he gave 2 ex-lovers a piece of material each to stitch on, and I can imagine how he felt when he saw the stitched piece of work on a stranger's haversack many years later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shokri. Next, we have Jolin Tan, who will be reading a poem documenting. Jolin, please.
This poem's called Documenting, and it's about the way we think about history. I will cross the universe seam by seam, my itinerary mapped by a collection of stories, fastened rung by rung, until a ladder is woven from memory to sky. Not to say I cannot climb a staircase winding up the dome in Florence and marvel at centuries of remembered history, but that, when teaching myself to sew, I unwind and rewind spools of thread and think of the everyday living lost. I know that the world is vast and bridged by the gentle laundry in the corridor, the bags of clothes waiting to be donated, the notes passed in a classroom. I know to cross a river by laying pebbles in a path as much as planks to form a bridge. I know to track the expanse of the past with lost conversations as much as we do so with our fingers on the surface of the greatest paintings.
Thank you, Jolene. Our next reader is Tiru Purani Gunasekara with her poem, End of Time. Purani, please.
Good evening, fellow poets and artists. My name is Purani, and my poem is actually a personal reflection of what time is to me. I think we all perceive time differently, but the question is whether does time really exist? So it's called the end of time. The leaves fall from the branches after the quail sings. A family of robins arrive, circling the tree when it rains, a dance of joy. They too leave as the snow falls. The end of December, winter is here. As the young await festive gifts, the old wait for spring. Families celebrating with wine. Cold and dark outside, the homes glowing of angels. A yearly ritual, it repeats. Only memories alive in the darkest nights. Time doesn't wait, and people do not wait for the end of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Purani. Now, Purani's poem has also been set to music. So once again, my welcome on stage, Mr. Maki Kanyos. Maki, please.
I'd just like to share that when I set the melody for End of Time by Purani, what came to mind was the 18th century, 19th century bleakness. Like it's winter, it's desolate, it's bleak. So I went around and looked for melodies that are classical but evoke a certain melancholy. So I hope I do justice to this one. The leaves fall from the branches after the coal sings. A family of robins arrive, circling the tree when it rains. A dance of joy. They too leave as the snow falls. The end of December, winter is here. As the young await festive gifts, the old wait for spring. Families celebrating with wine, cold and dark outside, the homes glowing of angels, a yearly ritual it repeats, only memories the darkest nights. Time doesn't wait, and people do not wait for the end of
Mr. Marty Peños. Next up, we have Farid Yusuf, who will be reading his poem Intertwine. Farid, please.
Hello, it's an honor to be here. This piece is based on the artwork Stitch in Time. It's called Intertwine. It starts with white, blank canvas hung, a clean flowing bridge, bearing and trite the empty young of colors to be stitched. The paleness turns bright where stories are sung from places out of reach, as space turns tight with words without tongue, such wisdom they teach. Shared virtues wreath, binding time and space, chaos by design, crossed hopes and beliefs, countless creation laced, freedom and assigned, forming what's achieved, an artifact of fates, a rainbow redefined, pieces of life received, the beauty it creates, destinies intertwined. Thank you.
Thank you, Farid. Next up, I invite on stage Lily Teo, who will be reading her poem Heart Stitch Matters in both English and Mandarin. Lily, please.
Hello, good evening everyone. Okay, I shall present the English translation first, okay, before reading in Chinese. Okay, of course the poems are inspired by David's artwork, okay, Stitch in Time. Okay, so I present the English translation first. Okay, Heart Stitch Matters. In numerous ways, a heart may be used, strung by needle and thread, so that it can bear the years. Colors reflect the stitcher's blood, telling tales of wanderings, grounding times of rest, forming the bones of time. Love, hate, feelings, sorrow, unbroken wispy bits that stir hearts behind viewing eyes. Okay, and now in Chinese. 这首诗的题目是一心真情，那针是针线的针，是缝东西的那根针。一颗心能做多少用？由针线串起，便承载得了岁月。色彩是缝制者的血脉，人生漂移故事，生命驻足牵挂，勾出时间的架构。是爱，是怨，是情，是忧，不断丝丝缕缕，撩动观看之心。谢谢 ，Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lily. Next up, we have Jayakumar Priya, who will be reading Stitch in Time in Tamil and then followed by translation in English. Priya, please.
Everyone, this poem is inspired by David Medalla's Love. கைக்குட்டை என் காதல் கொடி, பூமி தாய் பெற்றெடுத்த புதிர் கவிஞன் நான். எனக்குள் எழும் என்ன அலைகளுக்கு வார்த்தைகள் கொடுத்தேன் கவிதையான். எனக்குள் ஒளிர்ந்த ஏழாம் அறிவுக்கு உருவம் கொடுத்தேன் ஓவியமானது. என்னையே செதுக்கி செதுக்கி சிற்பங்கள் செய்தேன், விருதுகள் கிடைத்தன. கண்டங்கள் தாண்டி வந்து நான் கவி பாடிய போது வானம் தன் தலை உயர்த்தி என்னை அண்ணாந்து பார்த்தது. நட்சத்திரங்கள் இடிபோல் முழங்கி கை தட்டின. பூமியை பார்த்தேன், அங்கே ஒரு நிலா துண்டு கண்டேன். அவள்தான் என் காதல் தேவதை என கண்டு கொண்டேன். காதல் என்ற ஒற்றை சிறகு முளைத்து விட்டால் சாதாரண மனிதனும் கவிஞன் ஆவானே. அப்படி என்றால் காதல் பூத்த கவிஞன் கடவுளாவானோ? காதல் தந்த உற்சாகத்தில் விண்ணுக்கும் மண்ணுக்குமாய் நான் உலா வந்த நேரம் சட்டென்று என் காதல் தீபம் அணைந்து விட்டது. சூழ்நிலை காரணத்தால் காதலியை பிரிந்தேன். தொலைந்த என் காதலை மனதிலிருந்து கழற்றி வைத்துவிட்டு என் அறிவின் பாதையிலே நான் சாதித்த வேளையிலே மீண்டும் கண்டேன் என் காதலியை. தோற்றுவிட்ட காதலுக்கு பரிசாய் ஒரு அழகிய கைக்குட்டையை தந்தேன் என் கையெழுத்திட்டு. வெகு நாட்கள் கழித்து அதை கண்டேன். ஆம், நான் தந்த அதே கைக்குட்டை. ஒரு வாலிபனின் பின்முதுகு பையில் என் காதல் கொடி காற்றில் அசைந்தது. அதில் அவளின் கைவண்ணத்தில் நூல் வேலைப்பாடு, என் முன்னாள் காதலியின் அன்பின் வெளிப்பாடு. அதை கையில் எடுத்து பார்த்தேன், ரசித்தேன். அதனோடு என் கண்களும் இதயமும் 1000 கவிதைகள் பேசின. எதுவுமே சொல்லாமல் அவளிடம் தந்துவிட்டேன் அந்த கைக்குட்டையை. காற்றில் அசைந்தபடியே என் காதல் கொடி என்னிடம் சொல்லியது, உண்மையான காதல் என்றும் அழிவதில்லை. Now the English version. Kerchief, the flag of love. I am a polymath, born in this earth. I phrased all the waves of thought raised in me. It became a poem. I shaped the seventh sense enlightened in me. It became an art. I listened to my wisdom and carved my path. I became a world-renowned poet. When I traveled across continents and sang my poems, even the sky looked up to see me. The stars applauded louder than the clap of thunder. From up above the sky, I looked into the earth and found my angel of love. She was more beautiful than the mesmerizing moon. If love takes flight, even an ordinary person will become a poet. But when it blooms in a poet's heart, will he become a god then? With all the enthusiasm she showered through her love, I leaped from earth to heaven. All of a sudden, our ray of love disappeared. In a blink of an eye, I lost my love. I listened to my wisdom again and continued in the path of my destiny. While achieving more milestones, I met her once again at Heathrow Airport. I gifted her a beautiful kerchief with my signature and a thread and a needle too. Years passed by. When I was in Amsterdam, I noticed something hanging on a backpack of a handsome guy. Is that the same kerchief I presented to my ex-lover? Oh yes. I gazed at it for a while and returned it to the guy without whispering anything. But my flag of love waving in the wind and whispered to me, true love never ends. My love and the kerchief both conceals the secret till now. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Priya. Next, may I invite on stage Eileen Yap, who will be presenting her poem, The Quilt. Eileen, please.
This poem was inspired by David Medalla's A Stitch in Time artwork, as each person in my eyes represents a memory of a person, and together they create a rainbow of reminiscences, magical yet unlike any ordinary rainbow. This remains forever in our hearts as what we remember of it. And so the question is, do we see both the inside and the outside? And here's my poem titled The Quilt. In here, sadness clings onto joy, water diluting scattered bursts of iridescence. Anger rakes his vengeful claws against smooth patches of pastel silk. Jagged patterns masking finely woven threads, illuminating fragile love's silhouette. Out there, yellow threads interweave themselves with finer white ones encased below. Some loosely entwined by trembling clammy hands, others knotted tightly in a neat rainbow band. Bit by bit, they come together, forming a patchwork of unfinished beauty whose secrets lie in memories, stitched together with a needle and thread, interwoven carefully by man's hand. Leave. but return and feast from afar. A rainbow of reminiscences, invisible yet constant, for they are what we are.
Thank you, Eileen. Next, we have Tan Chile, who will be presenting his poem, Like Water, Like Wind. Chile, please.
Hi, good evening. My poem is entitled Like Water, Like Wind. So just now, I think it was raining. Before the wind and rain outside, I was hoping that the rain and the wind could accompany me in the recital. But I keep waiting until my turn. It all stopped. Anyway, this poem was inspired by David's kinetic series. It's about movement, about the kinetic energy. I did some research and looked at the YouTube for David's interview, where he talked about water being a very important inspiration for a lot of his work. Immediately I linked it with a Chinese philosopher's concept, Lao Tzu's 上善若水, the utmost goodness is water. So there goes the poem. I shall recite in Chinese first. 如水似风 David Medalla 谈水之后，生命如水，生命如水，生命如水，恋爱如水，恋爱如水，恋爱如水，动静如水，动静如水。如一声期待波澜与壮阔的赶路之风，在骚动与沉静之间，牵上半世的漂泊，终于歇息的宁静。活着与爱着，原来竟如水似风，是同一回事。活着与爱着。Let me read the English translation. Like water, like wind. After David Medalla talked about water. Life, like water. Water, like life. Life, like water. In love, like water. Water in love. In love, like water. Movement and stillness, like water. Like the hurried wind, longing its whole life for stormy waves. Finally resting and signing off its name, after half a lifetime of drifting in between commotion and silence. Living and loving, like water, like wind, are one. Thank you.
Thank you, Shile. Next up, we have Rina Kandov, who is reading her poem, Creation with Medalla. Rina Kandov.
I'd like to thank my family for coming here to support me and also the Poetry Festival. And my poem is inspired by a stage in time, the one in Berlin a few years ago. Creation with Medalla by Rina Kando. Cotton waves flutter, thread manipulated by needle fixer down. Colorful spools give colors awash over plain canvas. Penetrating gazes and pinpricks, an assortment of playful ideas, encompassing the emptiness exploding beneath, with meaning from flying hands. Eyes identify crude stitches interspersed with patchwork. No holding back, knowing fingers that consume the sentiments. Anchored down, the air lingers with unseen camaraderie that swirls about the room of collective creation steered by Medalla. Thank you.
Thank you, Rina. Our next reader is Junaida Bashrawi, but she unfortunately is unable to make it. So Rina will be reading on her behalf her poem, A Stitch in Time. Rina, please.
So this is by Junaida Bashrawi, A Stitch in Time, a tribute to David Medalla. An extraordinary transformation from concoctions of colorful threads and sheets of cotton, triggered by a humbling gesture close to the heart of a parting gift during the summer of love. Re-emerge over a span of time, cleverly fusing indescribable relationship between private and the public, creating space and safety, weaving away from moral pretension. The naked eye devours the cosmic propulsion of a repertoire of silent dialogues and kinetic rhythm of stitching. A rope, suspension bridge, a hammock, or the long table of a collective feast. A stitch in time, intricately expressing one's freedom of body and mind, breaking away from laborious and mundane routines. A time for reflection and selfless contribution, encapsulating memories on a piece of cotton. Thank you.
Thank you, Rina. Our next reader is none other than Eric Valles, who will be reading his poem, Medalla's Red Bubbles. Eric, please.
All right, on behalf of Poetry Festival Singapore, thank you very much for joining us in this collaboration between poets, visual artists, and singers. And thanks to Mr. Medalla for inspiring all of us. Right? And this, thank you. This poem is inspired by a childhood experience of Mr. Medalla's during World War II. And this is entitled Medalla's Red Bubbles. This was how art began. The wind blew news to where we dug cassava. As dust rose and glinted in fingers of sunlight. The root crop lay there looking dead around Easter. Gunfire sounded freely at a distance. Our breath was measured amid the dust. As a guerrilla entered the camp, my eyes dripped with dew. A kingfisher called from among trees as it played hide and seek from branch to branch. We waited for silence to look for the guerrilla, young, slumped among the lalang, under a hibiscus flower. Birdsong floated in the damp air. Blood mixed with red earth after he was shot by guards. Bubbles dribbled from his dying mouth, like bits of his soul, hungry for release. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. We're down to the final two poets, and the next one is myself. So I'm reading a poem called Saudade, and it's inspired by David Medalla's poem Homecoming. Two verses from it, which starts with, "Two things await you, soldier, on your return home." So here it goes, Saudade. First, a mosaic of memories stitched together with splints of the new. The image of the hero is fractured, his skin an abrasive surface covered with a tattoo of scars. He stumbles through the strange, familiar street where he climbed trees in his youth with other boys. What are their names? Where are they now? Now his house is a smoky puzzle of foreign faces and murky fragments. Second, a patchwork of clouds cling to his skin, the smell of smoke and newborn grass, where he collects stories from children and plunders monuments from tyrants. Each piece of cloth is a homing beacon, weaved and buttressed between layers of history, comings and goings on a strand reaching out, draping downwards, entangling in woven helixes until complete circuit is formed. Thank you. And well, we've almost come to the end, but what would it be without a poem by the artist himself? So I would now like to invite to the stage David Medalla.
Wonderful to see all sorts of poets are here. Maraming salamat sa panini. And I hope you can all sing Joy to the World with me. Can you sing Joy to the World? Joy to the World. Okay. Adam and Eve is so good. Let's all sing together. Let's give joy to everybody at the time when there's so much trouble in the world. Poetry and song and art unites people around. Give everybody joy. And spread it all around and share. That's the panini. Maraming salamat po. Maraming salamat. Mabuhay. That's what to say in the Philippines. Mabuhay, lonely. Mabuhay tayong lahat.
Thank you so much for joining us for the closing event for the Light Tonight Festival. Yeah, this concludes a 10-day celebration at the National Gallery. We hope that you will join us again. You can still stitch your poems, your messages, your memorabilia at a stitch in time at the auditorium anteroom. And yeah, for the poets who would like to have their photographs taken with David, also those who contributed to a stitch in time at Coleman entrance, we could do so. But the gallery is unfortunately closing in a few minutes. So thank you very much. Yeah. Can we have the poets come up here, please?
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. Can we just find out, there's an attendance list being passed around. If you do see it, can you please pass it to the front? Thank you so much. We appreciate it.